Like, if Donald Trump had done this in January, then fair is fair. That would have been even worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize look. But the fact that he continued this for another 8 months is so crazy. So cute, my little Hasanito. We have, obviously, the top news story of the day is the Gaza ceasefire deal that came out this morning, or not this morning, last night. They tried to turn around and make this into like a George W. Bush thing, a GWB thing, where, you know, Marco Rubio came up to Donald Trump when he was doing his like Antifa press conference, and, you know, he whispered into his ear. But one of the things that was interesting about the whisper in the ear was it wasn't actually about the Gaza ceasefire necessarily, but it turns out the whisper in the ear was actually for Donald Trump to be able to release a Truth Social statement, to okay a Truth Social post so he can be first to market. But after 2 years of unlimited death and destruction, unlimited genocide with American weapons, with American political cover, it seems like this ceasefire deal is a little bit different than the previous ceasefire deals, in the sense that both Hamas has agreed to it, and also the Palestinians seemingly believe that the ceasefire is permanent. I don't know exactly what is the reason for this level of confidence, but I am actually excited at the prospect of this deal happening. I'm excited. I'm excited that people are. I'm excited that people believe it. I mean, this is more celebration, I think, than the previous iteration of the ceasefire. Breaking news from DropSite. The chief negotiator for the Palestinian resistance, Hamas's Dr. Khalil al-Hayya, says the resistance have received guarantees from U.S. and mediators that the war has ended permanently. But then again, I keep repeating myself over and over again. I hope Israelis nuke your house. I feel like if Israel nuked my house, that would be really bad for a lot of people. Like, that would be, I live in West Hollywood. Like, you're demanding that the entire city of West Hollywood and most of Los Angeles get wiped out so that Israel can kill me. That's strange. Like, that's a very, I'm sad two of my favorite creators are at odds. Yeah, whatever, dude. Like, that's you. I understand why you want me to die. I think, like, I get it, because I'm anti-Israel and you're pro-Israel and you're pro-genocide. But it is very strange how much you want me to die, that you are perfectly fine with, like, killing 1 million people as collateral damage. Anyway, let's continue.
2 years of devastating war. This morning, President Trump celebrating a historic step toward peace, telling Fox,
"This is more than Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East, and it's an incredible thing."
Trump announcing on social media what he describes as the first phase of the peace plan, saying Hamas will release all of the hostages very soon.
We think they'll all be coming back on Monday. So it looks like that's the thing, and that'll include the bodies of the dead.
In return, Israel will withdraw its troops to an agreed-upon line. It comes after months of tense negotiations and deadlock. At the White House yesterday, the president interrupted by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, seen handing him a note and then whispering in Trump's ear. Photographers catching the handwritten message. "We need you to approve a Truth Social post soon so you can announce deal first." Shortly after, the president doing just that. announcing to the world what he describes as the first step toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace, calling it a great day and thanking mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked to make it happen. The deal also negotiated by Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner. The families of the hostages welcoming the news. The White House sharing this video overnight of some of them speaking with the president and Commerce Secretary.
What do you guys have?
Bro, it's crazy. The Israeli hostage families wanted Donald Trump to address the nation when he visits the region, if he does end up visiting the region. The amount of play that Donald Trump is getting off of this, in spite of the fact that he literally did everything but pull the trigger on tens of thousands of Palestinians. Like, he did everything. He basically also pulled the trigger. You know what I mean? It's like, it's American bombs, it's American money, it's American political cover. And in many instances, it was straight up the Americans giving fake assurances to Hamas so that Israel could try and kill them. Like, if Donald Trump had done this in January, then fair is fair, right? Fair is fair. Like, that would have been even worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize look. But the fact that he continued this for another 8 months is so crazy. Why now? A few folks have asked me in the course of interviews today this question. Why? If the basic framework of this deal has been around for so long, did it take until now for it to get to this point? A combination of factors. Yusuf Munayyer speculates. One, the continued cost of the Israeli military's genocidal campaign. The continued costs of the Israelis' military's genocidal campaign. These are underreported, but have been consistently growing. The Israeli economy took a major hit. The Israel reserve suffering as well. An unprecedented suicide crisis amongst the troops. Growing calls for sanctions in Europe and elsewhere, and growing diplomatic isolation. Despite these only growing costs, only negotiations, not the military operations, have led to the captives being released. The costs were adding up significantly, including in U.S. public opinion. The Israeli strike in Doha and Gaza military operation, these sent a clear message to all involved that the Israeli government is willing to throw away the lives of Israeli captives, meaning that the value of the captives in negotiations could quickly wane. The Trump card, for a variety of reasons, including engaging with global leaders, wanting to save Israel from itself and the captives from their own irrational extremist government, and wanting global recognition for peacemaking, Trump decided this was the best moment to lean in. Lastly, and importantly, just because this confluence of factors came together to produce this moment does not mean they will remain in place and continue to create incentives to make the deal sustain, especially past the initial exchange. I don't think that the genocide becoming far too costly for Israeli society at this stage was a significant enough factor for Israel to stop doing the genocide. I do think that fascism is a suicidal ideology, as we have talked about quite a bit. It is exterminationist and it is suicidal. And I think Israel would literally, I could totally see if left to its own devices, the Israeli government would burn through everything to continue its ethnic cleansing campaign, to continue its belligerent occupation, to continue its ridiculous incursions into all of the other regional actors, ally and foe alike. And I do think that it's more so a recognition that enough is enough coming from the American side. I think this is more so an American-led push to be like, it's done. I don't think Israel would stop. I don't even think Israel wants to stop. If this was left up to Israel, they would do the same thing that they did with Iran or tried to do with Iran. That to me shows that these guys are not all there, okay? That to me shows that these guys are fucking a little insane. How are you not banned, lol? I don't know. Why would I be banned? It doesn't work that way. Like, you assuming that I should be banned doesn't mean that I did something ban-worthy. Probably a lib take, but I'm believing that this timing is now more than Nobel Peace Prize than it ever deserves. Okay, I'm going to give you guys something even more suspicious. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee actually picked its nominees, not last week, obviously, but in January. And that was when there was the initial, that was when the nominees, like the top contenders were picked, which is suspicious timing, considering that that was when the fucking first ceasefire had been implemented. Not to get all fucking blue and on with this shit, but there is a situation here where they could have already nominated him and actually given him a fair shake because of the initial ceasefire implementation. And then they turned around and were like, oh my God, it's bullshit. Obviously that ceasefire fell apart. Then there was the famine. Then there's the global recognition of a genocide. But that means he could have still been in contention, right? He could have still been a part of the competition since that's when the first ceasefire was implemented, and he got a lot of props for it initially. So all I'm saying is giving Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize for this is basically like giving Hitler the Nobel Peace Prize for killing Hitler. Okay? It's so ridiculous. But the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize is supposed to award actions taken in 2024. They're not supposed to consider anything that happens in this year. I don't know if they'll follow that, but generally that's what happens. I don't know. But like I said, giving Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize for ending the genocide in Gaza would be akin to giving Hitler the Nobel Peace Prize for ending the Holocaust. Okay? Another clip up close, the Rafah border. Oh, this is disqualifying? Yeah. Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. He deserves it. Oh, God. So, yes, if we are libbing it up a little bit to assume that the timing of this is like dedicated to the Nobel Peace Prize, I can see that. I can entertain that. And I'm actually giving you additional information that potentially points to him being even up as a nominee because of the initial ceasefire that took place, which was right around the time the first ceasefire was taking place. But I digress.
To say to President Trump, thank you. They're all coming back on Monday.
In Israel, a similar scene of joy. The sister of one hostage popping champagne to celebrate her upcoming release. There are 48 remaining hostages, 28 of whom are confirmed dead. It was 2 years ago this week that Hamas attacked Israel, killing 1,200 people, taking 250 hostage. Since then, Israel's response, killing more than 67,000 Palestinians, including 20,000 children, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Gaza decimated. These satellite images showing the stark difference from before the war to now. Nearly the entire population of Palestinians displaced and in desperate need of aid. But the war has raged on, efforts to solve the crisis going nowhere. Previous ceasefires failing after...
I mean, I do think that all of the people that are still running with the 67,000 number are going to look incredibly silly. I mean, it's a horrifying number in and of itself, but it is a dramatic undercount due to a multitude of factors that I've described over and over again. Israel completely eviscerating the healthcare infrastructure, Israel doing double tap strikes on areas that they strike first, and then when before the dust settles, when the recovery teams come in, they strike the ambulances and the people that are trying to recover people from the rubble. This has made it so that it is virtually impossible to actually figure out how many people are dying directly to rocket strikes, directly to Israeli strikes, Israeli munitions. Because remember, the 67,000 number is the number of Palestinians that are either directly shot or directly bombed, and then they're recovered and they go to the hospital, and those death tolls are calculated in the hospital, right? Those are numbers that are severe undercounts due to the fact that the healthcare infrastructure is completely destroyed there. Okay? That's part of the reason why the number hasn't really moved that much since like last year. And we know that Israel has killed thousands of people because we've seen Israel kill thousands of people, right? So that is a significant undercount.
Both sides accused the other.
Especially considering that we also have to factor in deaths due to famine or deaths due to lack of access to medicine, lack of access to proper health care. Like, there are going to be there are already so many other casualties in this process that are not directly calculated as like, preventable deaths, for example, are not calculated as direct deaths by the Gaza Health Ministry. The Gaza Health Ministry's undercount, and this is like something that they openly admit, is specifically if someone is shot or bombed by Israel and they make it to the hospital and they log the person at the hospital as a body count from Israel. So if there are no hospitals to actually log people, then there is no way to know what the true number is. And on top of that, it doesn't actually factor in the externalities, the external deaths. Okay? There's also a fuck ton of people who are still lying under the rubble. There are people who are lying in mass graves, for example. They recovered a bunch of mass graves in the aftermath of like taking over the hospitals again, after Israel will like release the hospital after sieging it, and they'll find like mass graves and shit, and then they'll add that to the death count. So most estimates are far higher than the number that Israel's suggesting. The Lancet study suspects that it's I think it was like a couple months ago that the estimate right now is over 680,000. And this actually corresponds to Israel's own numbers as well. Israel's own numbers have dictated that the number of, if you look at the number of Palestinians that were in the Gaza Strip prior to October 7 versus what Israel thinks is the number of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip right now, there's like around 700,000 people that are no longer being counted as being in the Gaza Strip. Now, of course, there's probably a couple 100,000 that have been able to escape the siege and have been able to have gotten like medevac or went to like secondary refugee camps in like the UAE and places like that. But even then, there's still a severe undercount in comparison to the 67,000 number that everyone is still floating around.
Of violations. 10 days ago, the president, standing side by side with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, unveiling their 20-point peace plan to end the war. The president then warning Hamas to agree to the deal, or else saying all hell would break out. And while the president and the world this morning are celebrating this first phase and the upcoming release of the hostages, big questions remain about what comes next and whether it will lead to lasting peace. Now, President Trump says he will likely go to Israel in the coming days, where Prime Minister Netanyahu has invited him to address the Israeli government, and Trump even suggesting he could visit Gaza, too.
Martha, tell us about the role President Trump played in bringing all of this about.
Well, Robin, there's no question that if this goes as planned, if we see those remaining hostages freed and Israel begin its withdrawal, it is a remarkable achievement, and President Trump most certainly deserves credit for his role. He has done this through diplomacy, pressure, and the sheer force of his personality and persistence. He dispatched diplomats again and again, made threats just in the last few days to Hamas, saying again if they did not sign the deal, all hell would break loose. And they had the bombing of Iran on as an example of that. But perhaps most importantly, he pushed Benjamin Netanyahu in ways his predecessor and others have not. Robin.
And what finally got the two sides to this point? And will it be able to get phase 2 off the ground?
Well, you know, Robin, throughout this process, President Trump never wavered in his support for Israel. But when Netanyahu ignored much of what Trump was trying to accomplish by continuing to bomb over the last few months, Trump laid down the hammer with Netanyahu, essentially saying enough is enough. Trump had also told Netanyahu that he was opening indirect negotiations with the Iranians, which put even more pressure on the Israeli prime minister. Obviously, the coming days will prove whether the rest of the plan comes to fruition. But if those hostages are freed, which would leave Hamas without their major bargaining tool, this is a huge moment for Donald Trump.
It certainly is. All right, Martha, our thanks to you.
So I want to thank everybody for being here. As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never.
Yeah. Are you strangling Kaya? Yes. I'm strangling her. She's being strangled as we speak. It's really fucked up. Oh my God, Kai left the bed. Hassan, quick shocker again on purpose in front of 30,000 viewers, as I'm known to do. Do you think there's anything to be said about the timing of this being so close to October 7th? Coincidence? I mean, I'm sure that played a role. I'm sure the Nobel Peace Prize was part of it, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore, dude. I don't know anything anymore. I just like it's fucking crazy. It's a because the major thing here that is different than the previous iterations. The major thing here that's different than the previous like fake ceasefires and whatnot that Israel violated almost instantly after they got like a batch of hostages was that there is more confidence from the Hamas side. There's more confidence from the Palestinian side. There's more confidence from the resistance side that this deal will actually stick. And I don't know. I don't know if this will actually stick or not, especially considering that Israel is still fucking bombing the Strip. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm trying to make sense of this. But the only thing that gives me confidence about this, is not the motivations of the Trump side at all, but instead the confidence that I've seen from the leaders of the resistance and also the Palestinian people.
Interrupt you. We have Hamas's chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya speaking. This is one of the first times that a Hamas official has been commenting on this trucial ceasefire. Here he is.
Dear our Palestinian people, our Arab nation, our Muslim nations, our people of Gaza, Gaza of heroism and dignity and martyrdom, dear free people of the world. The whole world was impressed when they saw all the sacrifices that you've been showing and given and all the steadfastness. You engaged in a war that the world has never seen before, and also you were able to face and stood in the face of the violence and aggression and barbarism of the Israeli occupation of the enemy, and you stood there and your will has never been broken. You were able to continue to fight, and you were able to resist famine and the loss of your beloved ones and the losses of your homes and money. You've lived in tents, and also you've lived during under the stones of destroyed houses, and you stayed there. You were not disappointed. We are here living the second anniversary of October 7 fight and revolution, and we are here standing before all those who started this resistance, including the martyrdom al-Sinwar, Muhammad Haniya, and also Yahya al-Sinwar, and also the martyr Yahya al-Dif, and all his companions of the resistance, those who were chosen by God and they kept their promises to God. We are here in the face of all those who were fighting from point zero, and they stood there and they were able to face all the tanks of the army, and they were able to break and make all the plans of the enemy fail, including the famine and the anarchy that they started to provoke. You were aware and you were able to break all their and make all their objectives fail. Your brothers were sitting in the negotiations tables and keeping your priorities and your independence in their minds and hearts. Since day one of this war, the occupation and the enemy continued to commit genocides and try to abort all the initiatives and attempts of the mediators. And when we started a ceasefire on January 17, they quickly revoked and did not keep their promise, and they were faithful to their reputation of always creating lies. And despite all this, we continued the negotiations, the indirect negotiations that took a long time because of all the manipulation, as they will try to make all the negotiations fail. However, we've never spared any efforts in order to put an end to this aggression and genocidal war. We have behaved in a very responsible way towards the Trump plan.
Bro, this is the reason why I don't feel confident. I don't know where Hamas is getting this confidence that America will abide by the security guarantees. But Trump has asked what guarantees he can give that Israel won't resume bombardment once it gets its prisoners and captives back. And Trump says, we'll see. This doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. If the U.S. is trying to speed run through the 2% global credibility it retains after the genocide, publicly agreeing to a ceasefire with extreme fanfare and then breaking it immediately would be the best way to do it, I just don't think that America cares. Like, we're on our villain arc. Israel has been on its villain arc. And I think it's very dangerous when you have the hegemonic superpower under the guidance of Donald Trump openly lean into being the villain. Okay? Because when America recognizes, like, America's always been a villain if you're in the global south, but America has never recognized this villain status. Okay? Recognition of your villain status when you have unlimited power of global domination is very different than the way you behave if you are trying to present yourself as a force of good around the world. Okay? Make no mistake. When you say, oh no, I'm the bad guy, that's when you start bombing ships on the coastline of Venezuela, for example, and you say, what are you going to fucking do about it? America already has this unlimited power, and America has already used this unlimited power. Having said that, America has tried to at least abide by some kind of like international standard that they change around depending on what their goals are, right? Like they try to make it seem as though they're the world police and not entertain the notion that they're doing this because they're evil and there's not really anything you can do about it. I think that's definitely a change of attitude. That's definitely a change of attitude. It's a change of pace. And I think it's a bit scary to see where America would take it if they were to just be like, yeah, we're villains. Because America, like when a country is unrestrained and doesn't care about being like a global pariah, they behave like Israel. Imagine America, which has already done a lot of Israel-style things around the world, openly doing it in the same way that Israel is doing, where it's like, what are you going to fucking do about it? Yes, we're evil. What the fuck can you say about it? We're the United States of America. I feel as though that's a new level of villainy. That means that America would be even more unrestrained. As I have stated before, soft power initiatives are very important because in the absence of soft power, all you have that remains is hard power. Hard power is military intervention, boots on the ground warfare. Okay? So when you have 800 military bases, those only look like 800 different military, 100 plus different security cooperative agreements because of all the soft power initiatives. If you no longer do any soft power around the globe, people are going to look at that as 800 different invasions. Okay? That is very different. That is a logistical nightmare that even the United States of America and all of its imperialist ambition can overcome. This is something that seemingly the Trump administration has just refused to reckon with. I mean, the U.S. aid stuff was a great example of this, right? In some ways, moving U.S. aid directly under the CIA once again, so there's no separation between the State Department and the CIA in that regard, and then cutting ties with a lot of soft power initiatives that America had around the world in an effort to gain favor with the local population, so it makes it much easier when America wants to do any sort of intervention, dropping that and then saying, no, we're just going to go gung-ho on the military side. That's a terrifying prospect. This is how empires fall. Okay? This is how empires have fallen over and over again. Anyway, here's Donald Trump talking to the Finnish in a bilateral meeting with the president of the Republic of Finland.
That the big guy doesn't win over the small guy and vice versa. But I have to say that the track record of the president of the United States in the past 7 months, 8 months is rather impressive.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. First of all, thank you.
When you say Trump is continuing the legacy of American empire, you're not correct. I say this as someone who has been unimaginably critical of the legacy of American imperialism. Okay, the way that America has always conducted itself up until this very moment, up until the Trump administration, was often hiding or never saying the quiet part out loud. Donald Trump says the quiet part out loud. He is mask off about his ambitions. There's never been a moment where an American president will be like, I'm just going to fucking annex Canada. I'm going to fucking annex Greenland. What can you do about it? You know? Was Kissinger or Reagan not inherently evil? They're just as bad as Trump? No, they are. They are. Bro, Trump is merely continuing the legacy of American empire. Kissinger, Reagan, and Nixon killed millions of people and brutalized countless others and said, deal with it. They are. But they always tried to masquerade it within the confine of international legal standards. It was bullshit, and I say it's bullshit. Okay? I say it's bullshit too. But there was a difference between doing that while simultaneously continuing to abide by certain international standards and doing soft power initiatives in general. Okay? Now we're just dropping that and we're saying we are the villains, we are the bad guys, and we're not even going to try to masquerade as the good guys while doing the bad guys. In the past, we were the villain, we were the bad guys, but at least we tried to keep the public both here at the domestic front and also around the globe, specifically in the periphery of Western Empire, sedated and comfortable with American autonomy, comfortable with American domination and American control by engaging in these soft power initiatives and leaning into the optics of the whole endeavor, right? Even when the Iraq War is openly recognized as a complete massacre for no reason other than control of the natural resources, taking out a dangerous foreign adversary, dangerous to Israel in the region. Like, all of those things are real, and it was fucking bullshit. Even then, they at least tried to entertain. Even then, they at least try to entertain some kind of like reason, right? They lied about it, but now, if we were to invade Iraq right now under the Trump administration, they would have just said, we're invading Iraq. What the fuck are you going to do about it? That's the difference. There's no like WMD. There's no fake WMD. There's no like lies. They just say, we're invading Iraq, and there's nothing you can say or do about it because we're the United States of America. And some people like that. Okay? Some people like that. But I think there is a little bit of a difference because you are even less restrained now. There is no cooler heads prevailing that could be managing this. Like, even the excuses for blowing up the Venezuelan boats, as you pointed out, have been narco-terrorism, right? But even then, there is not really a lot of like. There's no real interest in creating a pretense here at all. They're just saying like, they're fucking. I mean, Trump is literally saying, if I was a Venezuelan fisherman, I wouldn't go out to sea right now. Like, don't you think that's a little bit different than even trying to build a narrative as to why it's incredibly important to like invade Venezuela? He's just straight up saying, if you're a fisherman, we'll kill you. That's fucking insane. That's an insane thing to say. There is no more need to manufacture consent, both at the domestic front and also on the international agenda as well.
Member of NATO, they're great people, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to do that. I think the chances of that are very, very small. But it's very interesting because you have a very big military relative to your size. You have a very powerful military, one of the best. And but certainly we will be there to help. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, please.
Mr. President, thank you. We have a bit order, as our president said. How would you exactly defend Finland and yeah, thank you.
Say what?
How would you defend Finland?
Vigorously.
Can I just add on that? We're very pleased with the fact that we have so much training going on with American soldiers right now. So they're getting experience from Arctic conditions. And we're integrating our militaries together, working not only through the DCA agreement, but other ways as well. We see that day to day in the work that we do, and it's working well.
Okay. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, thank you.
Where are you from?
I'm from Finland too.
Only Finns here.
You have a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of Finns.
It's very impressive.
So, Mr.
I like them better than our reporters.
They are allowed to travel. That's not that unique.
So how do you see the situation?
They are very impressive. Listen, the Finnish have been notorious.
Well, we will.
The Finnish have been notorious for their allegiance to, let's just say, not the best historical figures, okay? So, no disrespect to Finland. I do think what Finland has done at the domestic front has been quite ambitious as opposed to like the rest of, as opposed to like the United States of America, obviously, even though Finnish material conditions are also deteriorating at an alarming pace, as is the case with all social democracies around the globe, and specifically in Western liberal capitalist countries. Having said that, if you look at Finnish history, it's not the first time that they have aligned with, let's say, unsavory fellows because they were terrified of Russian invasion.
Spain, you have to call them and find why are they a laggard, and they're doing well too. You know, I think because of a lot of the things we've done, they're doing fine. They have no excuse not to do this, but that's all right. Maybe you should throw them out of NATO, frankly. please. Go ahead.
What are you planning to do with
Tall
that?
gentleman, nice tall gentleman, go ahead with the yellow shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to change gears just really quickly and ask you, you're going to Walter Reed tomorrow? What are you having done, and how are you feeling?
I'm meeting with the troops, and I'm also going to do a sort of semi-annual physical, which I do, and I think I'm in great shape, but I'll let you know. But I have no difficulty thus far. Is there wood around here? I'm not going. No difficulty. Physically, I feel very good. Mentally, I feel very good. You know, I did about 6-7 months ago. I do physicals. I like to, when I'm around, I like to check always early. Always be early. It's a lesson for a lot of people.
Yeah, you can't have that, by the way. You can't have a GP because it's unimaginably expensive, but he can because he's the fucking president. Duh. You know, I like to get tested. I like to get tested often. I want to make sure that I'm healthy. It's a very difficult job. You can't do it, though. No preventative care for you because you're poor. And you're poor because you're immoral. You probably deserve your social and financial predicament because you are a bad guy. To be rich is glorious.
Right. No, Biden didn't do it. Biden should have done it. I'm actually a person that believes that if you're president, you should do a cognitive exam. But last time I took a cognitive exam, and it was a perfect score. The doctors announced it.
Also, like I said,
way,
at 1 p.m., I'm going to have
easiest
David
test.
Adler on.
The first few questions are pretty easy. Once you get into the middle, it gets a little trickier. And there aren't a lot of people in this room that would get every single question right. I can guarantee you.
You're putting me in a difficult spot. Next question.
To talk about being detained by Israel.
Peace Prize for way less than you did, and President Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for way less.
For doing nothing.
Exactly.
Obama got a prize. He didn't even know what he got. He got elected, and they gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing but destroying our country. No, he was not a good president. The worst president was Sleepy Joe Biden, but Obama was not a good president.
Are you going to do something with the
They gave him a prize. How many months after he won the election, then they gave him the Peace Prize, right?
It was right after he was
elected.
My election was a much more important election.
Now that you're fixing the situation between Hamas and Israel, are you going to be taking care of the Hezbollah or the Lebanese armed forces to take care of the Hezbollah?
Yeah, we'll be able to do that. That will be, it's a smaller part of the puzzle, but very important part. They have a great new ambassador that I appointed, Michelle. Great new ambassador. So yeah, please.
Mr. President, saying that the hostages will be released on Monday or Tuesday. What's your strict deadline? When do they have to get released?
Well,
and how do you make sure each party abides by it?
It's going to be around that time. Yeah, they're working on it very hard. They're in very diverse parts of the earth. Okay, they're very, very diverse. Actually, it's I think they're going to come through. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I think it'll happen.
Mr. President. Thank you, sir. The 19th point of the 20-point plan said that in the future there could be conditions in which the Palestinians might eventually get a state. Under what conditions do you think the Palestinians
Well, we'll look at it at the time. We're going to see how it all goes. And, you know, there's a point at which we may do something that would be a little bit different and may be very positive for everybody. But we'll be looking at that at the time.
Mr. President.
And I think we'll get to that. I think we'll get to that period, too. Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please. Glasses.
Thank you. Mr. President, the United States has previously said that that Europe would have to take more responsibility for its own security. Are you or the U.S. planning to withdraw some of the U.S. forces from the European soil?
No, but we may move some around a little bit. I'd ask you that question, Pete. Go ahead.
I think that's right, Mr. President. We're very much heartened by your leadership to get NATO to rise up to 5%, which means they can take primary responsibility for defense of the continent. But that doesn't mean America is abandoning NATO in Europe. But we could look at where our troops are postured, what makes the most sense for America and our NATO allies.
We have a lot of troops in Europe, as you know, a lot. And we can move them around a little bit. But no, basically we'll be pretty much set. Go ahead, what's your second?
My second question would be, are you planning to impose more sanctions on Russia at this point?
I might, yeah, I might.
Mr. President, your 20-point plan says we will encourage people to stay. Can you confirm that as Gaza is rebuilt, that no one will be forced to leave?
Yeah, nobody's going to be forced to leave. No, it's just the opposite. This is a great plan. This is a great peace plan. This is a plan that was supported by everybody. I mean, as I said, they're dancing in the streets of many, many countries right now. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. No, we're not looking to do that at all.
Mr. President, do you think that we can see a full withdrawal?
Mr. President, can you cut through the politics on the shutdown? We had another failed vote today. Can you speak to our viewers from Orlando to Sacramento? What's your message to some of these families tonight facing missed paychecks, potential layoffs, and missed benefits due to the shutdown?
Yeah, I blame the Democrats. They ought to call their local Democrat representative, whether it's a senator or a congressman, and it's their fault. I mean, they admit it's their fault. They campaigned on the fact that they'd never shut down the country, but they want to shut it down. And, you know, we have the greatest economy. We're the hottest country in the world right now. I think you'd admit that. The hottest country. We went from a dead country a year ago to the hottest country in the world. So I think they probably don't like that. But we're doing great. I mean, we're doing great. I would say my message is call your local representative, congressman or senator, and tell them to get on the ball. The Democrats have caused this problem.
Can I ask one more question? Congressman
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Where are you from?
I'm from Finland.
It's so nice. Uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go with a killer question.
I would like to circle back to the icebreaker deal. So Finland and the U.S. are strengthening their economic partnership through the deal. What other areas of cooperation with Finland do you see as possible at this moment?
Good question. We're going to be talking about that in a little while. We're going into the next door room, commonly known as the cabinet room, beautiful room, and we're going to be discussing that. But we'll be doing other things. It's a wonderful country with wonderful people. We've had a long-term relationship, but it's never been as close as it is now. We'll be doing other things. Go ahead.
I mean, we've been talking about a lot with the president. I mean, the two specific fields where I think Finland has strength. One is quantum and quantum computing, and we know that that is basically what gives food for thought for artificial intelligence. That's very important. The second one is actually networks. And you know that there are two sort of safe and trustworthy Western networks right now. One of them is Nokia. And the other one is Ericsson. And actually 70% of all broadband in the United States is Nokia. So one of the things that we could work on together is creating the 6G space through networks. And we actually, Nokia has 7,000 people working here in the United States and an American CEO.
Okay, anybody else?
Man, Nokia used to go hard, dude. You Zoomers don't even fucking know about Nokia. 5110. That shit was a brick, dude.
I think there's going to be a large group of people.
I play Snake on that bad boy, black and white. Incredible. Damning indictment of the last administration from one of Israel's back channel negotiators who says this same agreement was on the table a year ago, but Biden and his advisors wouldn't take it. I hate to be vindicated every fucking day. Okay? I hate to be vindicated every fucking day, but once again, you know, everyone can suck my dick, okay?
With praise for the people that did this. And these are countries that did this. The whole world came together for this, even Iran. And I really thank them for it. Iran came out and said this is a good thing. This is a very good thing. So it was terrific. It's been a terrific experience for me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah. Damning indictment of the last administration from one of Israel's back channel negotiators who says the same agreement was on the table a year ago, but Biden and his advisors wouldn't take it. This is from Times of Israel, okay? Reported from Branko Marcetic, writer for Jacobin. But this is reporting coming from Times of Israel. What we should also know is that this deal could have been done a long time ago. As I've said over and over again, by the way, Hamas agreed to all the same terms in September 2024 as outlined in the 3 weeks deal that I had received in both written and voice messages in Arabic and English. But at that point, the Israeli negotiators responded that the prime minister did not agree to end the war, even though the 3-week deal proposal landed on the desk of President Biden. His person in charge, Brett McGurk, refused to stray from the bad deal that he was negotiating. Work in the back channel. I met with members of the American negotiating team in October 2024, and they were as frustrated as I was with their inability to convince Biden and Biden's people to look seriously at the deal on the table. The Qataris invited me to Doha in October 2024, and I presented to them the deal that Hamas agreed to, which they were fully aware of, but they said that without the American adoption of the plan, nothing could be done because the obstacle was Israel, not Hamas. That is the same message I received from the Egyptian intelligence. Hamas was ready for a deal to release all the hostages, not to govern Gaza any longer, and an end to the war, but Israel was not prepared to go ahead. Trump doesn't get off easy either. As Baskin says, he could have forced Netanyahu to take a deal at any point in the last 9 months. Once again, double vindication. As I told you, this would have been very different. My outlook on Donald Trump would have been very different. This is what I was talking to with Bradley Martin. This is what I was talking to Bradley Martin about, where it was like Trump is not actually interested. Wait, are we trusting Times of Israel now? Wait, what are you talking about? You have to look at what their biases are. This is one of the Israeli negotiators. And yes, the Israeli negotiators, as we've seen with like Daniel Levy, for example, are absolutely more honest about the terms and conditions. They're absolutely more honest about the terms and conditions that are being reported on. I cover Israeli news more than I cover Western media when it comes to issues that pertain to Israel and issues that pertain to Gaza. They don't have to do the propaganda that like the New York Times has to do, for example, which is precisely the reason why they can be more honest about all of the shortcomings or who's truly responsible for an inability to who's truly responsible for like setting up new hurdles. On September 19th in the late evening, Witkoff called me and said, "We have a plan. We had a long conversation, and I supported what the Americans were planning, and I made few suggestions on how to get Hamas on board. I was asked to convince the Hamas leadership that Trump was serious and wanted the war to end. Throughout the last months, I have been in contact with 8 members of the Hamas leadership outside of Gaza. 3 of them engaged with me in discussions. I did not make suggestions regarding the Israeli side because for over a year, I believe that if President Trump decides the war has to end, Trump will force Netanyahu into the agreement." That is exactly what happened. Remember, it was always one fucking phone call. Always. So whenever people say, "Oh, what are you talking about? Like America doesn't have that kind of motion here. Israel's a sovereign nation." No, the fuck it's not. It was always one singular phone call. This is one of the closest you can get. And in terms of like foreign policy, this is the closest you can get to one singular phone call to end something, okay? Obviously, you can't do that with Russia. Russia's a foreign adversary. They have their own ambitions. Russia is not attached to the hip to unlimited support. Russia doesn't actually get to do whatever it's doing with unlimited support from the United States of America in the same way that Israel does. That is precisely the reason why it took one phone call. This is also very important. Hasan, do you think Kamala would have won if Biden took the deal? Oh my God. I'm not even kidding. If Joe Biden did not spend every fucking waking moment dreaming about murdering more children in Gaza and didn't like let his ultra-Zionist advisors basically run the fucking show at the behest of Israel, and they did stop Israel at any point, they would have won unimaginable amounts of favor. Unimaginable amounts of favor. They could have made it seem as though it was Kamala's pressure, for example, that convinced Biden to finally put an end to the genocide. Okay? Abso-fucking-lutely. Think about how many people would have celebrated even if they had like a real convincing ceasefire. Even if they had an extended ceasefire, the one that Donald Trump, when he came into office, pushed Israel to engage with. Even if the Democrats did something of that sort, at least leading up to the election, they probably would have eaten good off of that. Okay? Any sort of gesture in the affirmative, any sort of gesture in a positive direction against what any sort of gesture in the positive direction would have won a tremendous amount of favor, for the Democrats. Anyway, let's get back to the Hamas confirmation of the Gaza ceasefire, calling it a victory for resistance and steadfastness.
And we have provided an answer that guaranteed the rights of our people and to stop the bloodshed, and that would also guarantee our vision to put an end to this war. Our negotiating delegations arrived for the negotiations armed with goodwill, and that's why we were able, together with the resistance factions with whom we have discussed, in order to provide an agreement that we are able to give to our people, our heroes, and we are happy to announce that we have reached a deal for ceasefire to put an end to the aggression and also to proceed to a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of the army, and to allow the aid to enter to Gaza and to open the Rafah crossing from both sides. There will be also an exchange of prisoners, including 250 prisoners who will be released, those who were sentenced for life, and in addition to 1,700 of the children of Gaza who were arrested after October 7. Also, children and women, all children and women will be released. We have received guarantees from the mediators and also from the U.S. administration, confirming all of them that the war has ended permanently. And we will continue to work with the national force in order to resume and to make sure that we achieve all the other steps and to achieve all the aspirations of our people, and also until we are able to have our state with Jerusalem as its capital. In this context, we would like to hail our people wherever they are, in the West Bank of 1948, in our diaspora, and also we would like to...
I know this deal was available during Biden's admin, but is this article just working to glaze Trump a bit, massaging his image for the Peace Prize? I think that there is obviously some fucking glaze taking place here with respect to... Wait, hold on. There is obviously some glaze taking place here with respect to like Donald Trump actually pushing, but I suspect that there is a reason for it, and that is because Donald Trump is actually pushing, it seems, so far. But once again, I don't know. I don't know if this is a real... I don't know if there's real assurances here. I don't know.
天上太阳风呀风风风的，心中太阳是毛泽东的，哈哈，你到我们的结伴呢，这里本身咱家做主人，咿呀一自由，呀呀推着我，这里本身咱家做主人。